Welcome to each and every one of you to this celebration and information meeting about Triple P here in Elkhart County from 2015 to 2019. When we finished our first 5 years of implementing, a number of us said, let's write a report during 2020 where we really reflect on what did we do well, what do we need to improve on, what were our successes, what were our outcomes. And due to COVID, a few of us had a little bit less work to do this summer, and so we actually were able to write that report. And instead of just sending it out to all of you, we decided to go ahead and have this gathering today to really pause and celebrate and reflect on what we have all accomplished together. For those of you who I don't know, my name is Emily Harriet, and I coordinate the efforts of Triple P here in Elkhart County. A couple of housekeeping things. I would encourage you to change your format in Zoom to speaker view if you haven't already done that. That way, hopefully, you'll just see the slides that we're going to be sharing and each of the different speakers. The other thing is that we are not planning on this being a particularly interactive program. We're not going to be asking questions of you or have a Q&A unless there's time at the end. But if you do have a question or a comment, feel free to put that in the chat box and someone is managing that. And then finally, just so that you have a sense of what the next hour is going to look like, there are going to be 8 different people sharing with you who've been involved in Triple P over these years. I'll be speaking a couple of different times throughout the hour, but we will have 7 additional people, starting with Candy and others here in a couple of minutes. Next slide, please, Andrew. Recently, this quote was shared with me from a colleague, and this quote is attributed to Dr. Vincent Folletti, who's been very involved. Well, he's really the father of the ACEs movement. So he and his colleagues are the ones who figured out that early adverse experiences affect mental and physical health later in people's lives. So when I read this quote, I thought this is a perfect way to kick off our program for today. If you were to ask me what my thoughts are on the most effective public health advance that I can think of in current times, I would say to figure out how to improve parenting skills across the nation. And that's exactly what we're trying to do as we implement Triple P here in our county. And now I'll pass it along to Candy, who will introduce herself and tell what we're calling the origin story of Triple P.
Thank you, Emily, and it's nice to see so many familiar faces, some I haven't seen for a while, so I'm glad you are all here, and I'm excited to be able to talk about Triple P. Parenting education has been going on in Elkhart County for a long time. When CAPS got its beginning in the early 70s, parenting education was one of the things that quickly began to happen out of that organization. And when I joined the team in the 80s, parenting education was strong. And at that point, we were doing the nurturing program, which was an evidence-based program designed specifically for parents who had come close to crossing that line into child abuse. And it was really effective in building relationships with parents to help them overcome the dynamics that led them to become abusive. But we recognized that not everybody needed a 10-week intensive class. And soon after 2010, we began really looking at what else is out there that isn't so intensive that we might be able to use. And we wanted evidence-based, something that had the research behind it so that we could get funding. And Emily was my parenting director at CAPS at the time, and I charged her with doing the research, find out what's out there, what are other communities doing, what's happening. And Triple P kept coming to the top. I had heard about Triple P at national conferences, and it's what Emily brought back to me and said, Triple P, it seems to be like the gold standard in terms of research-based parenting strategies and approaches. But she said, I think this is something that CAPS can't pull off alone because it was a tiered approach, and it was going to be too challenging for us as a one organization to do it. So we said, well, not now, we can't, and maybe we can't alone ever. And about that same time, Brian Wiebe approached me, and he and I had been having some conversations about this Horizon Education Alliance idea that was beginning to birth. And he said, "Did you know, have you ever heard about Triple P?" And I said, "Yes, it's what I wish we could bring here, but we can't do it." And he said, "Let's explore it. Let's figure out. I think it's what Elkhart County needs." So a small group of us went to California, and we heard the founder speak there, and heard from a number of organizations, communities who had launched Triple P and were making remarkable changes in their community. And so with Brian's boldness, we found a way to bring Matt Sanders, the founder, to Elkhart. I think that was in 2014. He came from Australia, spent a few days here with us, met with some business leaders and nonprofit organizations, and helped us imagine that we really could bring Triple P to Elkhart County. And that was how it was launched. Brian and I together, two organizations, approached the Community Foundation for funding. And soon after the funding came, I went to the Community Foundation. So the Community Foundation, I have to say, is really invested in Triple P, and both from my own experience as a social worker, as someone who had worked in child protective services and then child abuse prevention work, I know it's effective in that space. And I also know from being a parent that not every parent needs to drink from that fire hose, which is how Emily and I used to talk about it. Most parents need just a little bit right now. Answer my question today so I can get through the day without feeling like such a failure. And that's the beauty of Triple P. So I am thrilled that 5 years later, we still have Triple P active, and many of you are helping to make that story true. So thank you to all of you. And it's a joy to watch this continue to grow. So thank you, Emily, for letting me be a part of this.
Thank you, Candy, for sharing that origin story. I appreciate it. Next slide, Andrew. I'm just going to briefly talk about the Triple P model, just so that we're all on the same page, as then we go into hearing about the outcomes and the success stories and things like that. So Candy made reference to Dr. Matt Sanders, who's the founder of Triple P, and he almost 40 years ago, as he was working on his PhD in psychology, was providing parenting support one-on-one. So he would go into parents' homes and hear about their concerns and teach them strategies and help them come up with a plan. And at about that time, he had the opportunity to travel to the United States, and he went to Stanford University, where researchers there were piloting using a public health approach to reducing heart disease. And Dr. Sanders thought to himself, I wonder, could we use a public health approach to supporting parents? So he went back to Australia, where he lived, and this diagram here in front of you is basically the model that he created. So the idea is that if you're really going to use a public health approach, meaning you're going to support all parents and caregivers in the community, you need varying levels of support, because as Candy alluded to, not everybody needs the same amount of support. So at level 1, we have a broad communication strategy where we're trying to do two things. One is we're trying to get the word out to the community that support is available and this is how you access it. And number 2, we're trying to normalize parents asking for that support. And we do all of that work in lots of different ways. We're on the radio, we're in the newspapers, we're on social media, parents sharing their stories, folks talking to each other, referral agencies telling parents about it. Then we go to level 2. At level 2, we have brief parenting advice that's often offered in 90-minute to 2-hour seminars. And these really are about helping parents help their children develop to their fullest potential. Then we get to level 3, where we have very specific help and support for very common behavior challenges around the world. So things like how to handle disobedience or aggression or bedtime issues, or going to the grocery store with your child, or a teenager who's being disrespectful or not cooperating. So we have help specifically for that. Then we get to level 4. At level 4, we have much broader and more in-depth parenting support. Parents who participate in a level 4 intervention are going to go away having I'm seeing that some people might be having an audio issue. Sorry about that. So I think Sarah Tam will look into that. Others of you, if you're having audio issues, if you want to put that in the chat box so that we find out if we're doing okay. Thank you. So at level 4, parents will go away with a toolbox full of tools, or if they're already experiencing multiple challenges, we can help them with those challenges to get through those. And then finally at level 5, we have very specific help, and this is going to be for a much smaller part of the community, to help parents who maybe are struggling with anger issues or attributing all of their children's issues to the children and not realizing that they might have some changes that they need to make. So that's the 5 level model that hopefully can support all parents in the community. Next slide, please. So to put this program together in our community, we have needed to bring together lots of different partners, and that's really who most of you are who are here during this presentation. On the far left side, we have a list of 13 sectors that we've identified that we really need to work with to engage families in our community. These would be school districts, disability organizations, foster care organizations, churches, and so on. Their main 2 jobs are, number 1, to host Triple P events or to refer parents that they work with for Triple P support when needed. Then as you go into the second part of the circle, into the green part, we have our implementers. So these are the organizations that have at least 1 trained and accredited Triple P practitioner that's supporting parents either in their own organization or possibly in the wider community. And I just want to go ahead and list each of these organizations because they have stuck with us through years 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5, and many into year 6, and have put a lot of their resources forth to be able to do Triple P. So these organizations are REDA, also known as Reason Enough to Act, a pregnancy care center in Elkhart, Head Start in St. Joe in Elkhart County, Oaklawn, Goshen Community Schools, Elkhart Community Schools, Concord Community Schools, Growing Kids in Goshen and in Elkhart, and Lincoln Therapeutic, which is a counseling center. And then finally, at the center of this diagram, we have what we think of as our 2 lead implementing partners. One would be Horizon Education Alliance, where I'm currently employed. And HEA, Horizon, is largely responsible for that communication campaign. All of these organizations help us with that communication campaign, but it originates out of HEA and we kind of oversee that. At HEA, we also provide some of the lighter support at levels 2 and 3 where other agencies aren't able to provide that support. And then we have CAPS, who is truly the lead implementer of Triple P here in Elkhart County. They're the lead in the sense of the fact that they're doing 3 of the levels of support, and levels 4 and 5, which are the most in-depth, take a lot of resources to implement. CAPS has probably a dozen trained and accredited practitioners at this point who are actively supporting parents individually and in group settings. So that's what this whole system of actors looks like. That's everybody who's involved in this, and then of course the parents as well. Next slide, please. And then here we see those 13 sectors on the left-hand side and a map of Elkhart County. And each one of those flags represents a time where an organization that comes from one of those sectors that is supporting parents and referring them into Triple P or hosting events. So at the end of 5 years of implementation, we had about 83 partners, and that number continues to grow. So now, next slide, please, Andrew. I'd like to introduce Leah. She is the Senior Director of Prevention Services at CAPS, and she's going to talk a bit about how CAPS uses Triple P to support parents there. So Leah, you are next.
Thank you, Emily. Yes, so Triple P came to Elkhart County when I was the director of the Parent Aid program. It's a short-term needs-based home visitation support program for families. And we started off primarily training many of our home visitors initially in level 3 primary care, and then we moved on to standard, and then we even started looking into some level 5 interventions. We saw success right away. And not just in terms of parents reporting improvement, but also in the confidence of our parent aides. And you're going to hear a little bit more about that in a few minutes. When I moved into the position that I'm in now, overseeing our prevention services, I was already a big believer in Triple P. So when we went to work reshaping our parenting education programming, we couldn't think of a better thing to do but to put Triple P at the center of that. So over the last 3 years, we have worked very hard to fully implement Triple P as our primary parent support curriculum in our parent education support services, while we continue then to use Triple P in our parent aid program. And I just want to note that many families access those services by participating in one of our programs. However, our community education program is open to all parents in the community. As Emily said, it's a little bit more in depth. It's those, you get that whole toolbox, but we also can drill down and really focus on some of those primary issues that families might be experiencing. So as an agency and as part of Triple P Elkhart County, CAPS will continue to support and grow Triple P in our own programs and through community partnerships, because honestly, we believe that Triple P is the best parenting support program. And we truly believe in it, and we're very excited to continue and see where the next 5 years go. And now I would like to introduce one person who I know believes highly in Triple P and has been a supporter since the very beginning, and who's personally delivered Triple P to countless families in our community. She's a CAPS supervisor and she supports practitioners throughout the county. Here's Anna.
Thank you, Leah. So I kind of came along and fit my little piece of the puzzle into this bigger picture story that Candy and Emily and Leah are telling when I became a parent aid home visitor in 2014. So right before Triple P came to the county. And so my role was to go into homes and meet with families and help them with whatever goals they had for themselves and their families. And I quickly learned a lot of the resources and was able to do a lot of the things, but I felt really helpless when it came to parenting. So I had 4 children of my own between ages 6 and 12. I had read books, I had taken a training, and I still just, you know, I could kind of tell them what to do. I could maybe see what was wrong, but I didn't have a good way of delivering any kind of information to them that didn't feel like me just saying, hey, you should do this, or I just didn't feel very good about it. So then I got trained about 6 months after I got here. I got trained in Triple P, and Leah was mostly right when she said I was a believer from the beginning. I have to say, after the first training, I was kind of skeptical. There were just several things I thought, yeah, what's different? Not that great. But I had no choice. Like, this was really what it was. So I immediately started using it and just saw astounding results from the beginning. It was kind of shocking. So parents would get in there and they would have now a tool and a resource. I could guide them through a process where they could identify what the problem was. They could choose strategies, refine those strategies, turn them into a plan, really tweak that plan. And I would see their confidence grow, not just in parenting, but then I would see that same sort of sense of self-efficacy grow in other areas of their life, and that sense of success. And so I've said Triple P is kind of addictive in some ways, because it's just so rewarding to get to see families across the spectrum with all different kinds of challenges and strengths really grow in their own way, and to leave a home feeling that that family, there's reduced tension and increased love and support and encouragement in that family. So now I'm going to turn it over to Dr. Michelle Worth, who's going to talk about some big picture stuff and some of our outcomes over the last 5 years.
All right, thank you so much, Anna. So as we've been talking about, Triple P is this research-backed public health intervention. And that's what's so cool about it, is that it's backed by nearly 40 years of international research. And that research both shows positive outcomes for the individual parents who are participating in Triple P, but also positive outcomes for the communities that adopt Triple P. And that's a lot of different communities in the US and around the world. So by bringing Triple P to Elkhart County, we are translating gold standard research into everyday practice. So in the first 5 years since implementing Triple P in Elkhart County, we have a lot of great outcomes that our parents and caregivers are reporting that match the international research. So I'm going to show you a few of these in a moment, including not only outcomes, but that we're reaching a similar sort of section of the population as the demographics of Elkhart County, and that there's a very high satisfaction rate that parents have with the Triple P interventions. So with all of this, we have shown that an evidence-based program like Triple P can be implemented in Elkhart County and benefiting children, families, and the entire community. So if we could go to the next slide, the first thing I want to show you is just the overall numbers for the first 5 years of Triple P. 3,188 interventions across all those levels of the pyramid Emily showed you have been delivered to parents and caregivers. We do have people who repeatedly come back and do different interventions and more interventions. So the unique number of caregivers that we reached in those first 5 years is 2,431. So that's a really large number of people in our community who are benefiting from this. Okay, and the next slide. So the next couple of slides, I'm going to show you when we crunched the numbers for these 5 years with great help from Sarah Tam, who did a lot of the Excel work for this. We found that the population that we've been reaching with Triple P in Elkhart County really does a good job of matching the greater population of the county. So on the top here, the top graph shows you the primary language spoken. This is the parents who are going through the Triple P interventions are letting us know on a demographics form what their primary language is. And you can see that we have 75% of them who put down English, but there's 20% that say their primary language is Spanish. And then we have a little bit of a bunch of other languages in there too. And on the right there of that graph, you can see that 18.8% of people, according to the census in Elkhart County, speak a language other than English at home. So we're actually doing a pretty good job of reaching the population that speaks other languages than English. And then the lower graph there is the race ethnicity that parents and caregivers self-reported after going through Triple P interventions. We have about 60% of them identify as white, but we have 24% identifying as Hispanic or Latino, and 6.8% identifying as African American. And we also have some percentages that some of them don't put down anything, and then some of them say they're more than one race or Asian or something else. And so as you can see on the right, then the US Census estimates for Elkhart County, about 75% white and non-Hispanic, about 16% Hispanic or Latino, about 6% Black or African American. So we're doing a good job of reaching especially the Hispanic and Latino population, and we're kind of getting pretty close to matching the demographics of the county. So what this means is that, you know, we're doing a good job of reaching a diverse population of people in Elkhart County. All right, and the next slide. And this is a couple more little statistics to help you see that. So of the people who have done Triple P in these 5 years, 68% of the parents and caregivers reported a household income of $75,000 or less. And the mean household income in Elkhart County, again from census data, is $55,000. So we are getting, you know, again, a wide range of parents. So we have about 2/3 in that sort of income category, but then we're also reaching parents in higher income categories as well. And then 20% of our parents and caregivers reported having a 4-year degree or higher. So we have a bunch of different categories they could answer on the survey for their education level. And that matches the greater county as well, with about 19% of adults having a 4-year degree or higher. So all this is to show you that we're reaching a really broad segment of the community and really matching, you know, what people look like in Elkhart County. All right, next slide. All right, so how do parents like Triple P? They're very satisfied. So we give a satisfaction questionnaire in every one of the interventions on all the levels, and 94% of them have rated that they are satisfied overall with the intervention they received. It's all the satisfaction questionnaires have a 7-point scale. The average rating across all of the people who have done these interventions is 6.3 out of 7. So very, very satisfied parents. But how about how their lives are being improved? So the next slide will show you some of those outcomes. So these are just a few outcomes. There are a lot more of them that are reported in the 5-year report that you will all receive. But here's a few that I wanted to highlight for you. So these are for a variety of different interventions that we have with Triple P. in group, 86% of the caregivers reduced their ineffective parenting behaviors. In primary care, 74% report an improved parenting experience. And then with standard, which is typically a 10-session, pretty intensive intervention, they do questionnaires at the beginning and the end of those 10 sessions, so we can kind of see change and before and after in a few different outcomes. 90% of standard participants improved on at least one measure of parenting self-efficacy. So just as we've been saying, they feel more confident and more able to just have a lot more efficacy in their parenting. And then 76% of folks in standard reported a reduction in child behavior difficulties on the Strengths and Difficulties questionnaire, which is one of the gold standard questionnaires for assessing child behavior issues. So we really have some very great outcomes that, again, match with the international research. And then we're going to go from this into some more qualitative narrative stories of what parents experience going through Triple P. So I'm going to turn it back over to Emily, who will introduce our next speaker.
Thank you so much, Michelle. It is great to work for a nonprofit that puts as many resources as Horizon does towards research and evaluation so that you can really see what's happening in the programs that you provide. So thank you very much, Michelle, for explaining all of that very clearly and very well. So I am excited to introduce a practitioner that you're about to see is extremely passionate about providing Triple P in her context. She provides Triple P often in a one-on-one setting, maybe just one visit to kind of help a parent get through a tough time. She also provides teen seminars, and she's going to tell you more about what her name is, where she works, and how she works with families.
Thank you,
Vilma?
Emily. Thank you, Emily. My name is Vilma Padilla. I work for Goshen Community Schools and especially at Goshen Middle School. So I work with teens, and you know how difficult it is to be at that age, right? We really need Triple P with our parents. So I've been working and doing Triple P for almost 4.5 years now. But I love it since the beginning. I believe in it. I think it works. I have tried it with my grandkids. Too bad my daughters are already grown up, so I couldn't try them with them, but with the grandkids, and it's been wonderful. I have learned to do seminars and see how people relate and how people think, okay, I'm not the only one having this issue. All of us have this, and we can find solutions. We can find strategies to work together. So it's been wonderful. I love working with Triple P. It has been, I think it's been a wonderful resource to have in the school system, to have this seminars for parents, and it's totally free. So why not, right? Why not try it? And one thing that I was sharing yesterday with some of the people from Triple P is that I received a phone call from one of my first parents that I did a brief intervention. And this is like 4 years ago. It was my first one. I was nervous. I remember talking to this man. He was a single parent, and he came in and he's like, Miss Padilla, I need you to help me. And I'm like, oh, okay, I can use Triple P now, right? I have the training, I can use it. So about 3 weeks ago, he called me. And at that time, 4 years ago, he was having issues with his daughter, not communication. She wasn't doing her chores. There was a lot of things that he was having issues with. So when he called me 3 weeks ago, and he was calling me for something else, but almost at the end of the call, he says, hey, by the way, I want to tell you that, remember when you gave me Triple P and we talked about those strategies and I did them and I tried them? And I said, yeah, I remember. Well, my daughter is doing wonderful. We are having the best relationship ever. She's in high school and she's doing fantastic. So that makes my heart really happy. That makes me believe that Triple P can do more than that. And that's why I keep continue to tell my parents and, to help parents and to tell them that I believe in Triple P. I love it. I think it works, and we have to just continue sharing it. So that's me. I like Emily said, right? I get excited about it because I do believe in it, and I just love doing Triple P. And happy anniversary, Triple P. 5 years is wonderful. We continue to do more. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Vilma. It is such a privilege to get to work with her, as you guys, I'm sure, can see. Next, I want to introduce you to Sarah, who is a parent that recently completed Triple P Level 4 at CAPS with a practitioner named Audrey, who's here on the call with us. And Sarah just had a really good experience with Triple P and felt like she wanted to share that with all of us. And it's interesting because since we started implementing Triple P, we've always said, ideally, we would have parents who are willing to share their success stories to help normalize parents accessing support. So here in year 6, we have Sarah, and I think you all will enjoy hearing from her. Sarah, please go ahead and introduce yourself and share with us what you would like about your experience.
Hi, everyone. I am Sarah Vervink. So I just want to let you know that I'm extremely honored to be a part of this. It's great hearing from everyone about what you guys offer, because those really are truly the things that I have experienced through this whole thing, and I'm really just so thankful. So how I got started is I have a best friend who is a social worker, and over the years, she has been in and out of my struggles as a single mom. And what I found was, at the time I decided to really take this on, was I was just really overwhelmed, and my approach towards my children were negative, and really leaving me feeling regretful and just emotionally overwhelmed about how I reacted to my kids. So I really, needed some tools to implement towards certain situations in my life with my kids and with me, really. So, Triple P has helped me find my patience, and it's tremendously improved my communication through positive and effective ways towards my 2 girls, not only towards my girls, but in other aspects in my life. It's just really helped me with communicating all around. Triple P, along with Audrey, which I really enjoyed the time I got to spend with her. It's both Audrey and Triple P allowed me to change my view towards my child's behavior and my view towards, what they were really offering in any situation, whether it was a situation where I felt overwhelmed. I was just really able to step back and pause, and before reacting, which I'm a highly reactive person, I would just really think about what they were really trying to convey to me. So that's probably one of the biggest things that Triple P has helped me with. When I first started the program, I think I really related with the parent traps that Module 1 had offered. My favorite one that I related to was blowing your stack, because I would find myself almost every day, whether it was through the way I was feeling or outside influences overwhelming me, or just, my children's energy overwhelming me, I would just be, I would blow up, I would yell, and those are the approaches that I really got tired of personally. And so, obviously I needed to make a change. Because of everything building up and taking it out on my kids, regardless of their behavior, I now have the tools to work with to help me get through tough days. And like someone had mentioned earlier, it is about getting the tool now, how to work through the situation now to get through, tough days. And Triple P has really done that for me. Like I said earlier, Triple P has done so much more than just, helping me with parenting. It's helped me with other relationships in my life. I feel confident in my decisions. I feel empowered with my girls, and I no longer take on unhealthy influences from others. I no longer feel like I have to justify myself or my parenting to others, which is a huge thing. I really feel confident in the decisions that I make. And Triple P has reaffirmed that I had been making good choices all along. but now it's just a constant reminder to give my kids what I needed at their age. And I no longer view myself as like a difficult mom or a bad mom, but I'm now viewing myself as a proactive mom, and I want to continue to be a proactive mom. And I'm definitely not done with Triple P. I will be back, and I'm so thankful that I was given the opportunity to, experience this program. So, thank you.
Sarah, thank you so much for sharing. A lot of people on this call know that the way I got involved with parenting support was taking parenting classes at CAPS, and that made a real big difference for me too. So thank you so much for sharing. Woo! I appreciate it. So to conclude our time together, I'm going to go ahead and lean on social scientist Anthony Biglin. He wrote the book Nurture Effect in 2015, and he can much more eloquently say what it is that we're really trying to do in this community. He says, we can boil down what we have learned in the last 50 years in social science research to one simple principle. We need to ensure that everyone lives in a nurturing environment. And I would argue that not all of us know how to create a nurturing environment, or maybe we know how to be nurturing, but we don't have the skills to maybe be consistent or follow through with our kids. And so we as parents and teachers and business leaders sometimes need to be taught and supported to do this effectively. He goes on to say, instead of relying on agencies that only detect and intervene in cases of child abuse, and those agencies are important, build a system that, like Triple P, attempts to reach every family with as much or as little help as they need to deal with common problems in child rearing. The resulting agency or network of agencies, which is what we have now in our community, should have the responsibility to contact parents and support their success from before the birth of their first child, all the way through their child's adolescence. So Sarah, we're here with you during your daughter's adolescence as well. And that's really what we're trying to do. Triple P is truly a public health approach to reaching all parents. When we as parents know how to better prevent difficult behaviors from happening with our children and know how to more effectively manage struggles that do occur in encouraging and helpful ways, we are much more likely to raise children who feel good about themselves, who are socially and emotionally healthy, and who can succeed in school and beyond. Andrew, next slide, please. So here are our 4 big goals as we move forth in the next 4 to 5 years. First of all, we want to continue to find unique and effective ways to engage families, not to just bring them into the Triple P system, but one area where we really need to improve is bringing in families who can help us plan and implement Triple P programming as we move forward. Secondly, we need to continue to build relationships with the various sectors who relate to parents, to ensure that parents hear about Triple P from trusted referral sources, because that's a key link. If Vilma tells you that it's going to be helpful, or if Audrey tells you it's going to be helpful, parents are much more likely to listen than to someone who they don't know, or by hearing an ad on the radio or something like that. It needs to be a combination of all of that. Third, we need to identify untapped or underutilized partnerships and resources, particularly public funding resources, to ensure that Triple P is sustainable in our community. And we need to advocate for policies and changes in systems that will institutionalize Triple P and its partners on a larger scale. Next slide, please, Andrew. So at the beginning, I mentioned that we had worked on writing this report, and this report will be in your inbox later this afternoon. It is 32 pages long, but that includes lots of images and diagrams, and it's a pretty big font, so don't get too scared about reading it. But for those of you who don't have a lot of time or want to pass something along that's a little bit smaller, we've also created a 2-page report, and that's going to be available in English and in Spanish, and all 3 of those links are going to be in this email that you get later this afternoon, along with the recording of today's presentation in case you want to share that along. Next slide, please. By mid-January, we plan to send a printed copy of this report to our main stakeholders. And if you want to be sure to get a copy of this report, please let me know, contact me, let me know that, and we'll get that to you by mid-January. You're also welcome to just print the report out yourself and use it as you like. We are a little bit ahead of schedule. So what we're going to do now is we're going to go ahead and say to anyone who needs to leave the meeting to do that. But I thought of one more little announcement I want to make, and then we're just going to open it up and see if anyone wants to stay on, ask questions, chat for a couple minutes. Thinking about Vilma again, this fall we did pilot providing virtual webinars, and we started out kind of slow. Things got better by the end of the fall, so we will be announcing several dozen virtual webinars for parents starting in January. And the reason I mentioned Vilma is she'll be providing a couple of those webinars, as will Anna Sawatsky and others who are on this call. So we'll have webinars in English and in Spanish, and we've really tried to pick topics that we feel like are relevant for parents right now for what's happening. We're trying to keep them very brief, to an hour or an hour and a half, so that parents don't have to give a real big time commitment to them. So be looking for that in early January through press releases and our monthly e-newsletter.